Good morning, everybody. I'd like to share with you from a verse in Hebrews 6, verse 19. And it says, "We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure." So first I want to talk to you about an anchor. We know that an anchor is used to keep a boat safe from and protected from things like strong winds, from strong currents, and from big waves. But how does it look for us? Okay, if we're gonna anchor to something, whatever we're choosing to anchor to, we're hoping that that is gonna keep us safe, that is gonna keep us protected, just how an anchor protects a boat, okay? But now, what should that look like as people? How do we anchor to something? So I want to tell you that we've got two options to which we can anchor to. We can either anchor to the world, or we can anchor to things of God. So if we're anchoring to things of the world, that could be maybe that we're anchoring to the weather, we're anchoring to something our teacher has said, we're anchoring to our parents, our family members, our friends. But if we're choosing to anchor to things of God, we're anchoring to His Word. So now there's a verse in Matthew 24, verse 35, which says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." And so what that is saying is that we can choose to anchor to things of the world, but those things become shakeable, those things will pass away, okay? We know that if we're choosing to rely on things that friends say or parents say, or rely on the weather, we know that those kind of things start shaking. We can see the whole world is shaking at the moment. That has started to shake. But if we're holding on to things that God says, if we're choosing to anchor ourselves in God, we know He's saying here that His word will never pass away. It also means that it's not going to be shakeable. It's not His word. He can't go back on His word. If you go deeper into Hebrews chapter 6, you'll see in other verses that he's speaking about His promises and how He cannot go back on His word. He cannot lie to us. He cannot change His mind about the things that He's promised us. Okay, and now He's promised us a whole lot of things in this Bible. But we'll get to that in a little bit. First, I want you to look at these balloons. So we can see that this red balloon has been tied to a branch with a bunch of leaves on it. So it's a very thin branch. Okay, so now it has been anchored to this branch. But you can see when the wind picks up, when it gets very intense, you can see how much the balloon is moving. You can see what it's chosen to anchor to is pretty shakeable itself. It's pretty flimsy, and it itself is moving around a whole lot. Okay, so that means that our balloon is moving a lot too. You can see the balloon itself is shaking and it's moving all over the screen. But now if we tie this balloon to this bigger tree here, then we see that when the wind picks up, it moves around a lot less. Yes, it's still shaking a little bit, but it's not moving around nearly as much as it was when it was tied onto the small branches. So it's a lot safer, it's a lot more protected by being tied or anchored to this big tree. We can see even the smaller tree on the right hand side of that big tree is moving around when the big wind starts as well. So yes, our balloon is shaking a little bit even when tied to this big tree, but our God is so much bigger than this tree. So can you imagine how much less we will shake if we are choosing to be anchored in God? Our God is big. Yeah, so very, very big. All other heroes. Okay, so let's go back to Hebrews 6 verse 19. It says we have this hope as an anchor for the soul. So hope is our anchor. What exactly does hope mean? It means that we're basically wanting something specific to happen. So for example, I hope that the weather will be sunny on the weekend so that I can go outside and enjoy the sunny weather. I hope that when I go to the beach, it won't be raining so that I can swim. Okay, if you're hoping in things of the world, that means that you're hoping, like I said, on the weather. Okay, I'm relying on the weather to allow my mood to be influenced. If it's raining when I go to the beach, I'm not going to be as happy as I was if it wasn't raining when I went to the beach. It means if I'm hoping in things of the world, I can also hope in people. So I can hope that my parents never upset me. I can hope that what they say is always going to happen and always going to be true. I can be affected by things that I see on social media, things that I read on my phone, things that my friend tells me. I can be influenced by what people say, basically, and I can use that to define me. I can use that to affect my emotions and my feelings. But if I'm hoping in God, that means that I'm hoping in what He says to me. I'm believing what He says. I'm choosing to believe what He says over me and over my life, as opposed to what the world says over me and my life and my situation. So I'm going to come and explain what hoping in God is going to look like just now. But for now, I want you to look at this piece of paper. Okay, so I'm going to use this piece of paper to explain hope. Now let's play a game. I have a stone here. If I drop it and it lands on a block, you win whatever is in the block. Not really, but let's imagine. If I drop this stone and it lands on a square, you get to win it. So which square do you hope it lands on? What do you really want? Or what do you want the most? Let's say that I want to win a holiday. I really hope that this stone lands on the holiday block because I want to win a holiday. Now let's drop the stone and see what happens. So it didn't land on the holiday block. That's what I was really hoping for. But it landed on something else. Not necessarily what I wanted. I was really, really, really wanting the holiday. But now, if I now look at this other piece of paper. This piece of paper, it's going to be the exact same game. If I drop the stone, I win whatever it lands on. Do you see all the options? What square do you hope that it lands on? All the options are the same. All of them are saying that if it lands on any block, I'm going to win God's promises. So let's drop the stone and see what happens. Right? If it lands on this block, I win God's promises. If it lands on the other block, I win God's promises. No matter where it lands, I win. So with the first piece of paper, I had a 1 in 12 chance of winning what I was hoping to win, which means 8% basically. However, with the second piece of paper, I had 100% chance, 12 out of 12 chance of winning what I was hoping for. Okay, so what does that say about us? What does it say about hoping in God? Hoping in God means we're hoping in His promises. Okay, if we're wanting something to happen, we're hoping that what God says will happen. And we know that we can hope and that's going to happen, right? Because God is true. God doesn't go back on His word. God's word lasts forever. And we have His promises here in the Bible, okay? His Bible is full of promises. We can find them anywhere. And maybe God's even given you your own personal promises that you can believe over yourself. So how do we anchor ourselves in the promises that God has given us, or in the hope, in hoping with Him? It means we're spending time in the Word. So we're reading the Bible, we're finding more of those promises, okay? And then we can think about those promises. So we memorize the promises. That's why we make you learn memory verses in children's church, by the way, so that you can remember those verses. And you're bringing those to mind. So when a friend tells you, oh my goodness, like today's going to be a terrible day, you can say, no, I choose not to anchor into that, because I could say, oh, today is going to be a terrible day. Now I'm just going to get miserable. I'm just going to get sad, and I'm going to be very upset for the rest of the day. Or I can say, no, I choose to anchor in what God says. And God says that He is with me all the time. And if He's with me all the time, then that's going to be a fantastic day. And He says that He can use anything bad for the good of those who love Him. So He can turn any bad situation into something good. So I choose to believe what God says. And so I can go about my day being a lot more carefree and a lot more positive, because I know what God's promise is. And God's promise is that He's gonna turn anything bad into good for me, because I love Him. Okay, so because I know those promises, I'm able to take it in any situation and turn it around and change my attitude, basically, to go from being a negative, bad, sad attitude to being a good, positive, happy attitude. So Basically, with God in his Bible, he says that he is all we need. He is the one that protects us. He is the one that provides for us. He is the one that gives us comfort, that gives us healing, that gives us hope, that gives us joy, that gives us peace. He's the great I am, which means that he gives us everything that we need. And so if we're hoping in him, we don't have to worry about the world going on around us and what we can see going on around us, because we know that that doesn't last, okay? We want to be aware of what God is saying. We want to be hoping in what God is saying, because we know that he is unshakable. And if we're anchoring to him, just like that balloon, if we're anchoring to him, we're going to be unshakable too. So let's pray. Father, I thank you that you know us. I thank you that you know each person on the other side of the screen, Lord. I thank you that you know exactly where they're at, what they're going through, what they're feeling, Lord. And Father, I pray that you'll teach every single person what it means to hope in you, what it means to anchor ourselves in you, Father. I pray that you'll teach us how to do that. I pray that you'll give us wisdom on how to do that, Father, that we will fix our eyes on you, fix our thoughts on you, Father, and that whenever the bad news from the world comes at us, we'll come back at it with your goodness, with your promises, Father, knowing that you are good, knowing that you are in control, and knowing that everything that you have promised us is true. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, guys. Please know that we are praying for you guys. We miss seeing you, and we hope that you're behaving.
He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got a tiny little baby in his hands. He's got a tiny little baby in his hands. He's got a tiny little baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me in his hands. He's got you and me in his hands. He's got you and me in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got a tiny little baby in his hands. He's got you and me in his hands. He's got the whole world 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 in his hands.